In this video, we will be discussing tie-in sales and how a firm decides whether or not to bundle two products together. So here we have a problem where a computer store is deciding whether or not they should bundle two items together, and those two items are a computer and a monitor. And given this table, they want to know if they would bundle these two items together or not. And so we have this table that gives us three separate customers with their maximum willingness to pay for each good, as well as a marginal cost for each good. And we want to figure out if they would bundle or not. So the main formula we're going to use in this problem is the profit formula, which is profit equals price times quantity minus our total cost, which in this case is marginal cost times quantity. So this profit formula comes in handy because we want to maximize our profit, and in order to maximize our profit, we're going to try and find the price that leads to the highest profit. So what we need to do is for each value in that table, we will plug in our price, how many consumers would buy the good at that price, and see which price gives us the highest profit. So we will be referring back to this table quite often during this problem. So if we were going to look at both goods separately, we would look at each individual price and see how many consumers would buy at that price and what profit we would get from that price. So referring back to our table, we would go down the list for the monitors, and starting with the price at 1,200, we would set our price at 1,200, and only one consumer would buy it at that price because the other consumers do not want to go above their maximum willingness to pay. And then we would subtract out the marginal cost of 450 times our quantity of 1, and that would give us 750. So we can call this P 1,200. Now if we were to set our price at 800, and we'll call this P800, we would have 800 as our price times our quantity, where here we would sell 2 because consumer that has their maximum willingness to pay at 800 would buy it, and the consumer that has their maximum willingness to pay at 1,200 would also buy it. So 2 consumers would buy it at this price, and then we would subtract out our marginal cost, which is 450, and that would be multiplied by 2. And we get a profit of 700. Lastly, we want to look at our price of 300, and right off the bat, we can see that our price is less than our marginal cost here, because our marginal cost is 450, and we're charging 300. So no matter what quantity we sell, we will always have a negative profit, so we would never want to do this option. So we can cross out price equals to 300 because we would never charge that price. So that leaves us with 2 prices to choose between at what we want to sell at. And because if we set our price at 1,200, we get a profit of 750, which is higher than a profit of 700 when we sell at a price of 800, we would charge for a monitor at a price at 1,200. Now we want to set our price for computers if we were to sell these goods separately. And so we have our first price of 400. And since this 400 is less than our marginal cost, because we set a price of 400 and our marginal cost is 450, we would not do this price no matter what. So we can just skip it. So now if we look at the other prices, we have a price of 700. So we would set our price at 700. And we can see that 2 consumers would buy it because the consumer that has their maximum willingness to pay at 700 would buy it, and the consumer that has their maximum willingness to pay at 1,100 would also buy it. So 2 consumers. And then minus our marginal cost of 450, and that is multiplied by our quantity. And we get a profit of 500. And then if we look at our price of 1,100, we would set our price at 1,100, and only one consumer would buy that because the only consumer that would buy that is the one consumer that has the maximum willingness to pay of 1,100. And then we would subtract out our marginal cost of 450, and then times our quantity. And we get a profit of 650. And so by comparing these 2 profits and using those profits to determine what price we want to set, we will go with the higher profit of 650 and charge a price of 1,100 for a computer. So now if we go back to our table and our original question, they also ask us if they would bundle. So we want to figure out our profits for bundling as well. So what price would we set for a bundle? Well, what we can do is we can add the maximum willingness to pays for each consumer together, and we would get our bundle options. So for consumer 1, it's 1,600. For consumer 2, it is 1,500. And for consumer 3, it is 1,400. And then if we get our total marginal cost, we get a marginal cost for the bundle of 900. So by using these values, we can then see what price we want to set for our bundle if we were to bundle, and we can decide if we want to bundle or not. And so if we look at our profits for bundling at each consumer's maximum willingness to pay for the bundle, we would start with a price of 1,600. And so we have our price of 1,600, and only one consumer would buy this bundle at that price because it is above the other two consumers' maximum willingness to pay, and then subtracted by our marginal cost of 900 times our quantity of 1, and that gives us a profit of 700. Next, we want to look at our price if we were to set it at 1,500. And so we would set our price at 1,500. And two consumers would be willing to buy this bundle at the price of 1,500. So the consumer that has their maximum willingness to pay at 1,500 and the consumer that has their maximum willingness to pay at 1,600, so a quantity of 2. And then subtracted by our marginal cost of 900 times 2, which is our quantity. And we get a profit of 1,200. Last but not least, we want to find our profit if we were to set our price at 1,400. And so our price would be 1,400. And 3 consumers would be willing to buy this bundle at the price of 1,400 because it is the lowest of the willingness to pays. So every consumer would be willing to pay for it. So 3 minus our marginal cost of 900 times our quantity of 3. And we get a profit of 1,500. And so, by comparing our profits and seeing which price would lead to the highest profit, we would choose a price of 1,400 because it gives us the highest profit of 1,500. So, we found the profit, if we were to bundle, to be 1,500, and we found the profits for each separate item to be 750 and 650, and if we were to add those profits together, so our total profit would be 1,400, and we want to know if this store would bundle or not. And by comparing the profits of if they were to bundle or if they were to sell each good separately, we see that the profit for bundling is greater than the profit for selling them separately. So they would bundle in this case, because if they were to bundle, they earn a higher profit. That will conclude this video on tie-in sales.